Hello, everyone. Another Jubilee reaction. This is Christians versus atheists. Can they see eye to eye? I think they can, depending on how mature they are as people. Let's begin.
And I was in an abusive marriage, and my father yelled at me that I was going to hell when I walked out. I'm sorry. I don't believe in a God that would believe that.
Again, like that sucks, obviously, but it doesn't mean that that God doesn't exist. Like it's I know this is not the usual use of this phrase, but like you're saying the quiet part out loud. These are emotional reasons for believing and not believing in something. It's like saying I'm just going to believe whatever makes me feel better. That's You're susceptible to being recruited by an MLM, a cult, marketing. Uh, Critical feeling is a phrase that I think Eric Weinstein has tried to coin with moderate success, but I think it's a good phrase to keep in mind. Like, make sure that your feelings are at least somewhat based on reality, and furthermore, make sure that your decisions are not based on irrational feelings. Like, you can know that some feelings are irrational, that's fine, we all do that to some degree, but don't let that determine how you view the world. Your feelings are important in terms of the choices that you make because that's ultimately um, what determines good or bad, right or wrong, and so on. But it doesn't determine what is true. I love discussions like this, by the way. If you want to have one, let me know. Hit me up.
Can I have all of my atheists over there? Can I have all my believers?
I don't like that they always say all of my whatever. I know it's just a turn of phrase, but like it's a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Pineapple belongs on pizza.
This is nice.
You gotta be kidding.
I like that. I like that they start with a silly question.
My wife will not have a pizza unless there's pineapple on it.
You can try anything on pizza.
Yeah.
So why not pineapple?
I'm gonna bring in the disagreeers.
Pineapple pizza. Pineapple pizza. I like the taste of the cheese, the sauce, and the bread. That's it.
It's like
The
candy.
sauce?
It's like having candy on a pizza. It's
No,
like two good
how
things.
wrong is that? It's like putting M&Ms on a pizza.
Time. Back to our side.
Don't put sauce on pizza.
I'm nervous about what's going to happen today.
Eh.
I mean, I'm nervous because this is a normal topic that people can usually talk about, but in this climate, it's very touchy
Yeah.
to even say I believe or I don't believe.
Right.
So
Is it?
It's funny, I would think that you would feel safer in the belief category than I feel in the non-belief category. I was raised in a house very culturally Jewish. We talked a lot about God and religion and many different religions of the world, but I wasn't raised with any faith, with any religious faith in the house.
just 2 years ago, I hated Christians. I think I was an atheist, but I voiced all my doubts and skepticisms, and they gave me their perspective on it.
You see, this is a problem. Hating Christian, and I know this is not what he's saying, but if you hate Christians, first of all, that means you don't understand them. If you hate any group of people for their beliefs, that means you don't understand their beliefs. I mean, you can not understand them and not hate them, but that's a tangent. Um, when people say people who call themselves former atheists, you're not really a former atheist. Or the reasons why you said you didn't believe whatever you didn't believe, you might have not believed it, but the reasons are bad, and no wonder you got rid of them. And when those reasons went away, because some, seemingly in this case, like a Christian, told you that this worldview that you have doesn't make sense, which it doesn't, uh, then you go, okay, well, I guess you're right, and move on to their own to their worldview, because theirs doesn't have the insufficiencies that yours does. But again, it's not exactly an emotional argument, but it may as well be. It's equally invalid. Don't you, like you shouldn't hate Christians. You can hate an ideology. I think there's a lot of hateful and hate-worthy things that luckily most Christians don't believe, but that according to the Bible they should believe. So yeah, sucks that this person didn't have good reasoning, which he was sort of talked out of. It's the fallacy. So somebody pointed out the fallacy in his reasoning, and therefore he went over to their worldview. That's what it sounds like he's saying. I'm obviously making a lot of assumptions here, but that is more or less what he also said.
Kind of opened me up, and that's why I'm a man of faith today.
I believe there is good in every person.
Yeah, I would say so. You have to say yes to
I think
this.
if I just choose to believe that everyone is purely bad or evil, then that's going to be pretty.
And then you have to decide what the definition of good
Yeah,
is. What
like
is good?
according to Christianity, there's no one good, no, not one. But I don't necessarily believe that if no one's good. I
We're
don't
born
want.
with a sin nature.
Yeah,
Wait, according to Christianity, no one's good. I mean, again, depends on your interpretation. Like, no one is completely good in the way that Jesus supposedly was. I mean, Jesus was a bit of an asshole, and I always say that because it's true. Um, but being good doesn't mean being perfect. And I think that's the impossible bar that Christianity puts on everybody. The standard by which you will always fall short, and therefore you will always be guilty. Setting aside the original sin business, which is another uh, just horror in and of itself. Uh, but there is good in everybody. I think yes, I do think that it's sort of like, and people say, well, you don't know everybody. If you take it to the extreme, it's like saying everybody's fingerprints are unique. You don't have to see everybody's fingerprints and compare each one with each other one to know that everybody's fingerprints are unique, because you know something about the way that fingerprints are formed, that even in like twins, they would be different. So we do know something about, number one, what goodness is or how we define it. Again, this is somewhat subjective, but I think there are objective measures by which we can measure stuff like this, with regard to people, with regard to propositions, and so on. That's number one. Number two, we know how people um, derive their morality and and how they determine their value systems. And I think whatever, even if we completely disagree on what's good, we all believe in something that is good. And again, there's some edgy, like, Zoomers and sadly still some millennials who really are too old for this shit, who will say stuff like, choose violence and stuff like that. But we know that's not really serious. We know that's it's a childish tantrum that they're throwing against the world. They don't really believe that. Although they might temporarily believe it to make themselves feel better about a bad choice that they've made. This is getting too deep. Let's continue the video.
so that's hard. Is like my definition of good may not align with scripture, so it's hard because that's why I hesitated. Like I want to believe everybody's good.
If that's antithetical to the Christian belief, is that you're born is sinful. It's interesting that the three.
Here's a question for the Christians. Is being sinful necessarily in conflict with being good? Can you be good and be sinful? For me, that is an irrelevant question, but if you're into the theology, I think that's worth asking yourself. Can somebody be good? And what does it mean to be good? Like when there's a certain point of esotericism that really makes discussions like this kind of irrelevant. because you might say, well, everybody's sinful and everybody's a bad person because of original sin and all of that stuff. But that's not really going to affect the way you live your life. Like you still have to have a social system, even though you technically believe that all of these people are not good. Like, and this is a problem with religion as a whole. It takes away the stuff about life that matters, the most important things. It remixes them in a way that makes them practically meaningless. Like, if everybody is bad, then nobody is bad, because then badness becomes a useless thing to judge somebody by in comparison to other people.
Of you came who are believers in that.
I'm not saying people are innately good. I'm saying I just understood the question as all people are capable of good.
Disagree with someone.
Is there a difference between being innately good and being innately capable of good? I think if you're innately capable of good, that kind of raises the bar for being good, because if you're not, then you can't be expected to be good. Like if you're just a rock is not good or bad. It cannot be good or bad. But if you're a person, then there is an expectation that makes you be that makes you need to be good in some way. And if there are people who are just psychopaths, that's a bad this is not what the word psychopath means, but if there are people who are incapable of being good, then I think you can't expect them to be good. And if you can't expect them to be good, then then goodness just doesn't apply to them. And so technically that still wouldn't make the distinction of is everybody good or bad. It still doesn't conflict with that, because then that's not somebody to whom that applies. You wouldn't, for example, say it would be like judging a book written in English by the grammatical rules of a different language. It just doesn't apply. So it's almost a meaningless question to say who is good and who is bad, or are they good or bad people.
Yeah, no. Start with Hitler and go from there. Or people.
Well, let's start with Hitler. There's some stuff. I'm sure there's some good stuff that Hitler did. I mean, what's her name? Ava something, his fiance. I'm sure she liked some stuff about him. The people who followed him liked stuff that he did, and some of that stuff must have been good. Like there's the old joke about he made the trains run on time. Oh, was that Mussolini or Hitler? I can't remember. Um, that's a good thing. It's it's nothing compared to the evil stuff that he did, but there was good in him. And his paintings weren't that bad, I will say. Go ahead and cancel me now. I think this would be an opportune time.
People, or some people born good and turn bad.
Well, I think that's why the
right.
definition of good is subjective. That's why it's like to each his own for a definition,
We
which
don't-
is
It's not subjective. You can disagree about it, but it's not subjective. My worldview is based on utilitarianism. Now, you can be a deontologist or you can be something else, but one of us is correct and one of us is wrong, or maybe probably the truth is somewhere in the middle, depending on how you define these disciplines of thought. But morality is not subjective. Our understanding of morality is subjective, but there just are good things and bad things, even if we don't understand them. It was always wrong to sacrifice children in order to have a good harvest the next summer, even if we didn't understand that at the time. It's not subjective.
kind of
I
hard.
don't know what is right or wrong without the Bible, because it's God that makes the rules.
Really?
Without God,
Really?
you have no rules.
You don't.
This is one of the most frustrating things about the Christian worldview or most religious worldviews. If, first of all, you are choosing, let's setting aside the truth of that claim, whether God makes the rules or not, you still, and this is something that's subjective, you make the choice to follow the rules of this God or another. A Christian will say God makes the rules and the Bible is the book that tells them. A Muslim will say God makes the rules and the Quran is the book that tells us what those rules are. Both of those people have made a decision to follow one book or another, or no book, like an atheist like myself would say. And it's a circular argument because you're basing your decision to follow the rules that God made on the presupposition that your God is the one who made the rules. And that's the claim that you have to prove in the first place, which you can't.
You can't make a decision on your own whether it's good or bad.
And that's the other thing. That's the point that this atheist woman is making is it also absolves us of all responsibility. We do not live in a world that where we have to worry about coveting our neighbor's donkey. That doesn't apply here. The moral questions of the 21st century or the 20th century or even the 5th century are different than the moral questions that existed in the first century when Jesus lived, or even before that when Moses and whatever other religious figure existed. They are universal, not universal, but they are relatively timeless truths in these books. That much is true, but that's not where the story ends. And the strengths of these books, that where they tell us things that are still applicable to this day, that is not to be brushed off by atheists like my younger self and still many people today as just, oh, well, that's just stuff that everybody knows. No, the reason why everybody knows these things is because uh, we have codified them into these religious texts. But our day-to-day moral decisions have nothing to do with the Bible. We know not to steal, we know not to murder, and possibly, I'm even disagreeing with a lot of atheists here, possibly if we did not have these codified in religious texts, that might not be the case as much as it is today. I might even change my mind on this point. But to just pretend that a 2,000-year-old book has all the moral answers you need, no. Is it right to cross the street when the traffic light is red and there's no traffic around? You're not going to find that in the Bible. Then we move on to AI, we move on to geopolitical conflicts, we move on to environmentalism. Pretty much every live moral debate currently has nothing to do with anything that a religious text can teach us, which is why we have to make the decision, we, humanity, humans, have to make moral decisions by ourselves. And this is the problem that religion creates because it tells us you cannot make your own moral decisions, as this man just said. All the decisions are made for you. You have no will, you have no choice, you have no moral agency. I think that is evil to teach people this and to believe it about yourself. You're fully free to believe it about yourself, but do not tell me that I have to believe it. That is evil.
What about Hitler? He made a decision. He
Right,
thought it was
and
good.
Yes, he made the wrong decision. To say that morality isn't based on your book does not mean that everyone's decision is equally valid. That is why we talk about these things. Sorry, I'm getting pissed off at this guy because, and he's old. He should know better. Or maybe because he's old, he shouldn't. Maybe I'll give him a pass because of that. But no, that's ageist. No, fuck this guy.
And he was wrong. You don't need the Bible to tell you that.
Well, you're born with that. God put that in you.
Well, then why wasn't Hitler born with that?
As
That
you
nature,
believe.
that conscience.
As you believe.
That's not a belief, it's a fact.
Okay.
I'm an author of 2 books where I give the whole history of the Earth from
Oh, he's a young
paleontology,
Earth
geology,
creationist.
archaeology. Published about 4 articles on numerous subjects, including politics, science, meteoritics, dinosaurs.
I believe my life has worth and value.
Yes. Ooh, lady in green.
My
Why are you
mother.
not stepping up?
Yes, I would want people to think that they have worth and value, but I mean, we are all ants on a big ball.
We are all very important. The design in those things, if a man were to design it, it would cost several $1 million to make a human, if that were possible. And yet, God has created billions of us.
Come on, Nancy.
Why is that why is it between man or a human and God? Like, how is that an argument that because a man cannot create something, therefore God must have created it? Yes, it would cost probably a lot more than $1 million to create a human if you had all the necessary parts and all of that kind of thing. Which, if it was possible, which it isn't. But so what? Like, an ant can't create a TV, so does that mean God exists? There are things greater than humans. There's just no reason to call any of them gods. The weather is greater than humans. The planet is greater than humans. An elephant is greater than a human. Just because you can name a higher power, uh, what? Not just because you can name a higher power. Like, even if you couldn't name a higher power than yourself, that doesn't mean that your God exists. And we can do that. And it doesn't mean it's a complete non sequitur. It doesn't, what does that even, like, show me the syllogism. How do you get from point A to B?
I believe in people. I believe we make our own choices. I don't believe that there is a overriding being controlling those choices or controlling our situation.
You
Okay.
are important.
So I do not think that inherently just existing gives you worth and value. I think that you make choices, personal choices every single day on how you live your life and how you treat people and how you exist in the world, and those.
Well, hold on. You just made a definition about what value is, but you still don't believe you're valuable based on your explanation?
I said I'm not inherently valuable. My
That wasn't the
being born
question,
does not
was it?
just.
Saying based on your contribution to the world determines your value, right? What you give
Yes.
Don't, no, please don't.
Oh no, I'm not trying. I'm trying to figure out what you meant.
There are many people who just exist because of instinct or because, do their lives have value? I don't know. If they find value in it.
Yeah, but the question was, I have value. My life is worth something. And surely, I think she's just being too contrarian here, and too kind of self, um, almost self-deprecating. Just because you exist doesn't give you value, that's true. But why does that not apply to her? I mean, she's on this panel. Surely she thinks that's worth doing for her, for other people. I don't know. I think this lady is being a little bit too nihilistic.
Sure. If they don't, maybe not. Who am I to judge whether somebody's life is inherently valuable?
Who are you to judge? You are a person with cognitive faculties. We all are. We all make judgments. We all have the right to make judgments about ourselves, about other people, and that is how society is created.
I have had my doubts on the existence of a higher power.
Obviously.
I am a woman of faith and belief. I believe in the supernatural and higher power and a being that there's no accident in the way we were created. Yeah, I think anytime I have gone through hardship, I've questioned not just what I believe, I question my life, I question.
So the guy standing in the back who says he's never had doubts, I really think the reason why some religious people do this is they are putting on a show for God. And it's kind of sad.
My profession, I question my relationships. So
I think, if you believe, whether it's Islam, Hindu, I think you have to doubt it. You can't just jump in there and be like, sign me up, I agree with everything, let's do this.
That would be for you.
Yeah, because how do you decide what to believe in? Like, say you've never heard of any religion before. Should you just instantly accept the first one that happens to come across your feed, if we're if we're talking in 21st century terms? You're not allowed to doubt it? And how do you determine the merits of it then as well? If you can't doubt whether, well, maybe this Christianity thing is not for me, and then eventually, if you doubt that whatever religion you end up with was the right one for you, and then you end up, choosing it, that's fine. I mean, isn't that kind of the purpose, the point of being born again? Or is this guy saying, well, I'm not my former self, and ever since I was born again, which I'm sure he is, I haven't had any doubts, which even that I would say no, I wouldn't believe anyone who says that. Um, first of all, because I think they're being dishonest, but if they are being honest, that's worse. Because if you genuinely haven't had any doubts about something like that, you're you're just crazy. It has nothing to do with a religion. It's just no. This is the problem. You 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 cannot think. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to doubt, according to some interpretations. I'm sure if you're watching this, you may be a perfectly reasonable Christian who occasionally has doubts, but nonetheless returns to their to your position. That's fine, relatively speaking. But I kind of just feel sorry for this dude, man.
You, but that's not for everybody that is a believer of any particular religion. Some people don't question anything.
But in your view, by standing and saying, I don't think there's any higher power, do you ever face any doubt of thinking maybe there is?
Well, the definition of an atheist is someone who does not believe. It's not a declaration per se that there is no God. I am an atheist activist. I'm on the board of Atheists United here in Los Angeles and on the steering committee for Americans United for Separation of Church and State.
All right, come on in.
No, I've never had any doubt, because I can see design everywhere. And you are not an atheist, you're an agnostic.
Nope.
You see,
I'm
an
an
agnostic
atheist. No,
believes.
don't tell me what I am. I am an atheist.
An atheist doesn't believe
I'm an atheist. No.
An atheist doesn't
The
believe in the
definition-
supernatural,
No.
period.
An atheist
An
does not believe in
agnostic
the, no.
does believe
An
in the
atheist
supernatural.
is someone that does not
He
believe
just
in
doesn't
God.
believe in
I am
God.
telling you what an atheist is.
You're wrong.
No.
Do you believe in the
I am an
supernatural?
atheist.
Do you believe?
Okay, this is close to unbearable, but I will give it is possible to be wrong about the definition of something that you call yourself. There is still an ongoing, I mentioned this in my previous video about this topic. Um, it is possible to call yourself an atheist because you think an atheist is somebody who uh, just doesn't believe in God. Like to a Christian, a Muslim is an atheist, or vice versa. This is, again, I'm sure some people will disagree with this. But just because you are an atheist doesn't mean you are correct about what that word means. Just like being, I don't know, like I always confuse whether the male or female has the XX or XY chromosomes. Like being male doesn't mean I inherently have that knowledge. So they're both being very unpleasant, especially the old man, which is unfortunate, but ultimately they're trying to get to a common ground where they both at least agree on what the definition of the word atheist and the word agnostic is, which I think is fine. They're just going about it, especially him, very childishly.
Believe in the
Look,
supernatural?
do not tell me
Do you believe
what
in
I am.
witches?
We don't need to make
What I
anybody
am.
right or wrong. It's just answer the question, give her
tell me what I
space to
am.
talk. Give her
Right.
space to talk.
Do you believe that this line of interrogation, questioning further?
So the problem, and I've seen this a lot, problem with this old man is he currently, I'm fully willing to believe, he has no doubts, and he has not even a sliver of, I don't want to say doubt, but not even a sliver of possibility in his mind that he could gain anything from this conversation. He is not there to learn anything. He is there to teach. And a win for him would be if he was to sway somebody who is there, including the Christians, I'm sure, to his point of view. Once again, it's a sad way to go through life.
No, I'm just giving facts.
Saved by the Bell.
I am feeling frustrated right now.
Yes.
I'm
not.
feeling frustrated.
He's not. The old man isn't feeling frustrated because this is fully what he expected, which I guess is worth something. Uh, but to him, it's not a frustration because, again, he did not go in expecting to get anything, and so he's not disappointed. I'm surprised that the other lady didn't step forward because I would be extremely frustrated if I was in her place.
Because it's even amidst the fellow believers, like the things he says, I'm just like, yo, I don't even know. I don't want what he says to
He is not a good representation of Christianity or anything else that he might be a part of. He's just kind of not a nice person. Or no, I don't even know if that's even correct. I mean, I'm sure he treats, I don't know why I'm sure, but he may well treat everybody around him differently than he is currently treating these people, although this is not a good example. It's just sad.
reflect what my faith is too, you know what I mean?
I think it's sad that people are so determined to make other people wrong. And I grew up in a household with a conservative Jewish mother and a born-again Christian father, and I was in an abusive marriage, and my father yelled at me that I was going to hell when I walked out. I'm sorry. I don't believe in a God that would believe that.
Yeah, that's not.
It's not, and that is objectively, I don't care. That's
in
crazy.
These conversations, like, you know, if we have people who are just trying to drive their point through and almost
Exactly.
converting it, it kind of shuts down conversation.
So, okay, the emotional point that she's making aside, because again, that does not determine truth. There's a difference, and I think this is missed in debates like this. being an atheist means you disbelieve in two propositions for the most part. I'll speak for myself. One, you believe that there is no God, and two, that you do not worship a God. Now, it is possible to believe that a God exists and not worship it. I don't think there's very many people who hold that view, but it is possible, and I'm sure they exist somewhere. I not only do not think that God is non-existent, I also think that if the God of the Bible, if there was some kind of evidence presented that would be convincing to me or to the general atheist, I think if that God was real, first of all, the world would be completely different. But secondly, I think that would be a terrible, terrible thing. And so what this lady is saying, it seems, is that if the description of God that she was given was different, was nicer, if instead of her dad telling her you're going to go to hell because you're divorcing your abusive husband, if he had told her, well, actually, God says that a marriage is only valid if there's love on both sides, and your husband doesn't love you, and so you should leave, and God is totally okay with that. In fact, you're being a good Christian by leaving your abusive husband. Would that have changed her mind? Would that have made her a Christian, or would that have not made her an atheist? We don't know when she became an atheist, or if she always was, or whatever. I think that would be an invalid reason, just like her current reasoning is not valid. I understand that a lot of times we do make emotional decisions, but I think in hindsight, at least, you have to kind of think to yourself and go, okay, I made this decision to not believe in God because my dad was an asshole about it, but does that really mean that there is no God? Mm. And this must have happened years ago. Why would it? Okay, I'm belaboring this point too much. Let's continue.
I want to
Exactly.
know what you believe and why you don't.
Anybody else? Come on in.
Again, we have the power to choose our response to things. So I choose not to feel hurt. I choose not to be misunderstood.
I think there's safety
What? You can't choose not to be misunderstood. It's not up to you.
in being heard and understood. You feel as if whatever it is that you want to be understood about matters.
I'm getting married in the next 2 months, and I'm learning that just loving is not the same as understanding. See, and it takes energy and effort to understand someone who's different. I think we're kind of, as a society, becoming lazy. So we're like, oh, you're different. I don't want to understand. I need people who are just saying. It's always been that way. Oh, yeah, it's always been.
Wait, what?
Effort to understand someone. Just loving is not the same as understanding. See, and it takes energy and effort to understand someone who's different. I think we're kind of, as a society, becoming lazy. So we're like, oh, you're different. I don't want to understand. I need people who are just saying. It's always been that way. Oh, yeah, it's always been.
I agree.
I believe, as a person, I have room for improvement.
Oh, look, we all agree.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
all have room for improvement.
I'm sure the old guy is going to say, well, I have room for improvement because I could be serving Christ better or something. But he did hesitate. He's the only one who hesitated. I think probably what he was thinking is, well, I'm certainly better than these people. But then he thought, okay, no, there's I could be the perfect Christian, which maybe I'm not, because the other day whatever.
That's my aspiration on a daily basis, is to be a better person.
We're always learning.
I used to think at some point I would actualize into, I've made it. I've made it into maturity and wisdom. No.
You're a teenager, you think, when I'm in college, I'll have it figured out.
Yep.
When I graduate, I'll have it figured out. When I get married, I'll have it figured out. When I have kids, I'll have it figured out. But we're always...
We won't reach perfection till we get to heaven. down here is an imperfect world. Our knowledge is imperfect, our bodies are imperfect, our world is imperfect.
I mean, I'm agreeing with you, but it's the delivery of it.
All right,
We understand
improvement.
it, but
Right.
Let's stay up.
What was the question? We all believe that we have room for improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
All right, Alyssa, I acknowledge you for keeping very, very focused and not getting ever heated, but staying focused.
I appreciate your honesty and the way you stand up for what you believe.
Nancy, you have a presence of self. You have a very still, very centered quality to you that is very admirable.
Who's
Christine,
Nancy?
I acknowledge you for not running out of the room when you were in a controversial conversation. I acknowledge you for standing your ground, for believing what you believe, and you've got a lot of fight in you.
I don't know if it's just because the old man is so unpleasant, but the other two Christians just seem like really nice people. Yeah, it gets me a bit emotional just seeing people be nice.
Oh, Jeremy, I acknowledge you for being unwaveringly firm in what you believe, and not caring whether it's controversial or difficult to say what you believe. That is a sign of passion.
Peter, I think you're growing, and I think
Passion's
you're
not
a
always
wonderful
good.
guy. And your marriage is going to make it grow even more.
You just seem like a very comfortable guy who's willing to learn and grow, and that's a lovely, lovely quality in somebody. Rissa, you have this ability to take stock of yourself and make decisions. Like when you said, I choose not to be hurt, and so I'm not hurt. It's an amazing quality in somebody. Thank you.
Nice to meet you all. Bye, guys.
Oh, we invite
That is, I'm not sure I agree with that. I choose not to be hurt. It's kind of what Stoicism is all about, which I try to follow, but I'll just say there's a lot more to it. I wouldn't necessarily be skeptical of the statement in and of itself, because it's not necessarily false, but I think there is a lot of naivete in people who make this statement.
the wedding.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll see when
Put it down.
people
Oh, no, thank
they
you.
send their I can't make it. I'll let you guys know.
Thank you.
Smart.
Okay, that was a good video. I don't have any more thoughts on it. I don't have any other recommendations. If you want me to react to some other video by Jubilee or by something else, please not cut. I hate that channel. I hate the button. I hate a lot of things. Yeah, let me know. Anyway, that's it for this video. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other.